by the grace of God. And so, Charlotte, we receive you. We honor you. You are a woman of God. And so we bless you. And Father, we just ask that you would fill Charlotte up with your spirit, that the words that she speaks to us today would not only invite, but impart grace for us all, every single one hearing the word, to step into a place and pursue passionately a freedom and a wholeness that we've not yet known, every single one of us, because there's always more. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Yeah. Amen. Okay, I had mic problems this morning. I'm actually on right now. Good deal. Welcome, everybody, and hello. I think I blew up my vocal cords on that shofar blow thing, so this may be a quick sermon. That was pretty good. Okay, well, like I said, we're in the second week of our marriage series, and so I promised Michael that I would recap and reinforce and remind you all of the 2 rules he laid down last week. How many of you were here last week to hear Michael and Larissa? Okay, good. Well, so this is your test. What was rule number 1? Listen for you. That's right. Okay, yeah. So this message is for you and you and you and you and you only. It's not for your spouse next door to you. So no elbowing, no eyebrow raising, no clearing of your throat in hopes that they will pick up on the point that you're really wanting to drive in, okay? What was rule number 2? Okay. It's for today, and it's for going forward. We're not permissioning you to have any morbid remorse about failed relationships in the back. It's not about what's behind you or what's been. It's about where you are right now, the one you're in. And for those of you that aren't in one yet, we're going to set you up and prepare you so that you can do it right and you can do it healthy. But it's for what he's got for you right now and where he wants to take you. The current relationship that you're in, how he wants to blossom it, grow it, just explode it into more than you could ever have it, ever imagined. In prepping for this evening, obviously it can be really overwhelming when you try to tackle something as broad as marriage. I work enough with you that I know that in this body alone that we have marriages that are anywhere from thriving and exciting and fully alive to maybe getting a little boring, maybe need a little bit of a tune-up, maybe in intensive care, some that are actually, in critical or even on life support at this point. So I just want to let you know that we know that you're there. We want to hear from you. We want to help you. We want to walk with you. I have been in that place, Kevin shared. We've had some ups and downs. And so I was sharing this morning, there have been times where I felt like we were on life support and somebody had actually unplugged the machine, So, but I just want to give you hope and give you courage and get you ready for what's in store, what he wants to do for you. He made it really easy for me when I was thinking about all this. All he gave me were 3 images and 1 scripture. So I think he wants it to stay really simple, and I'm going to try to honor that for you guys. Even though this is a marriage series, I just want to acknowledge the singles in the house. I think we probably have a lot of them tonight. How many of you are out there? Okay, all right. Well, put on your seatbelt because he has something for you, okay? And we just really want to honor you because you probably knew tonight that you were coming to a marriage thing and you came anyway. So they just honor you. Thank you for doing that. And that's just tremendous wisdom right there. I tell you what, I'm actually thinking that we need to open up a lot of our marriage events to the singles and to those that are in working relationships, because I think you need to understand, how to keep it alive and how to keep it healthy and how to feed it before you're in crisis mode and needing to go to a marriage workshop to put it back together. Don't you agree? Okay, so will you guys start? You may be participating on some of these marriage things that we put on. If I invite you, will you come? Yeah. Okay, all right. Get a bigger room. Here we go. Okay, but he really did want me to start with you guys. He really wanted me to address you as the singles. The image that he gave me for you was this beautiful plot of land. It was about the size of a city block. And in the middle of the lot was a single structure. This property, as it panned out, was prime real estate. It was so incredibly valuable. It was kind of like Central Park in New York City. And so just the thing for you to grasp right now is that this season in your life of singleness, it is prime, invaluable real estate. It's the opportunity for you to begin to prepare yourself to be able to take the land, because as I was watching this image, it went from a single structure that was a little outdated, a little dilapidated, kind of had a little what going on, and it ended up getting remodeled. They were getting updates, and then I watched as it expanded. So it was no longer just a single unit, but it actually began to take up the whole city block. There was such an expansion. And I think that's representative of the families and the things that he wants to do through you, through this marriage. But it is so critical that you start with that single structure and get it healthy, get it healed up, get it updated, get it new. So, with that being said, a lot of why I think that structure that was on that land was a little outdated and a little crooked was because I don't care how relationally and emotionally healthy and strong your family of origin and your raising were, you have been impacted by those family dynamics. And the relationships in your life, the victories, the traumas, the defeats, the celebrations, the wounds. And through all of these things, you've actually created belief systems. You haven't done it intentionally. It's all been subconscious. It's all been so off the grid that you don't even know that you're operating from a lot of these systems. But you are. And the deal about these systems is they're really to protect you. You know that scripture that says, above all else, guard your heart, for from it flow the wellsprings of life? Okay, well, the guardian he's talking about there is not like barricading yourself in Fort Knox and refusing to come out. Okay? We build those things to keep ourselves from the pain of losing loved ones or being hurt by others. It's a self-survival, instinctual thing that we do to take care of us, to keep us alive. But it's not the type that he wants us to have. Okay? Unless you've been incredibly intentional and been willing to make the financial and the time investment into your own healing, relationally and emotionally, you need some of these updates, you know? They're not just going to happen. But because this is prime real estate, this is a season of your life, there are no any other interruptions, you don't have any other distractions, so it gets to be the one time in your life where it can be all about you and no one else is impacted. So invest it well. Start taking care of you guys. You have more resources available to you in the relational and emotional arenas than anybody my age ever had. And so I just want to encourage you to take full advantage of it. There have been so many advances in the past 10 to 12 years in relational science and in brain science that can explain things that we never understood before. And what you know about, then you can take preventive measures and you can take corrective action if you understand what's going on. There is so much available to you. We're here at Upper Room are so committed to you having access to those things and being able to grow and to stretch and strengthen in those areas that are actually offering a relational workshop every Monday night this year through the month of October. So there is something offered for you to take advantage of to help grow you and stretch you and strengthen you and equip you in these areas. And if you can't find that we're offering what you need, there are plenty of churches in the area that are large enough. They have entire ministries that are set to focus on just one specific area of a relational, dynamic. So get help, sign yourself up, look around, research it. If you can't find it, email me, Charla at uroom.org, and I'll research it with you, and we'll find a place to get you plugged in because it is invaluable information for you to have. The healing needs to be done now, and the resources are out there, so take full advantage of it. Let's see. Especially the value of taking care of it right now is because if you don't, it is going to show up. And after you're married, the impact is going to be so much greater. Consequences, so much stronger. You might have a little telltale sign that there may be something going on in the way that you interact with your coworkers, in the way that you interact with your roommates, even just in the way that you show up with your friends in your relationships. Those dynamics are there to reveal an invitation for you. The resources are available, and you're being exposed, so I encourage you. It's not as scary or as terrifying as you think that it is, because he's gentle and he's kind, and he's only revealing it because of what he wants to heal in you, because he's wanting to accomplish through you. So if you've got these dynamics going on with your coworkers or with your roommates, if you're afraid to commit, if you're afraid, or if you have a tendency to overcommit, if you're afraid of marriage, if you're afraid to live without marriage, these are all indicators that it's an opportunity for you to sit with him and let him begin to move into those places and to do the healing in you that he wants to do to strengthen you and make you whole. We have the inner room here at the upper room that is an inner healing deliverance ministry. And if you don't want to receive ministry through the inner room, we have other resources that we have people that are trusted friends and have a proven track record of being able to just really help you recover from the dysfunction in your own family dynamics, any trauma that you've experienced, any just disconnect that you're having about connecting with Jesus and really being able to walk things out with him day in and day out. So again, email us. We have resources we would love to share with you. We have a number of other inner healing and deliverance ministries. We have professional counselors. We just have a lot of things that we want to offer you. We don't want you to feel like that healing and wholeness is not an option for you, because we want you to know it is, and we want to be a big part of that for you. Okay, so this is my exhortation to you. I want to encourage you to allow God to be the new builder, and Jesus to be the architect of the new structure, and Holy Spirit to be the designer of the new and improved you before you get to the I do place. Okay? Anybody willing to do that? Anybody even think they would even seriously consider that? I just don't want to sit up here and tell you what you need to do and not think that you're going to do it, because I'm telling you, it's going to impact you. You don't have to be afraid of meeting with Jesus. I don't care how messed up your past is or how much sin you're tangled up in. He is kind and he is gentle, and he wants an opportunity to love on you. He wants the opportunity to be able to meet you in those places and to give you his perspective, because until you're willing to do that, you know the only perspective you're going to hear? Yeah, it's the enemy's. And I can assure you the enemy does not want you coming and sitting face to face with Jesus and hearing how much he loves you and how he's not concerned about the mess that you're in. He's more concerned about the pain that you're trying to medicate that has you in that place.
That's really good.
Okay? So just be reassured that Jesus will continue to forgive all of your sins, and you do have the resurrection power of Jesus Christ ever present and available for you in all of these areas, okay? But you know what? It's on you to take action. It's on you to make the positive changes that are going to allow you to become that example of healing and grace that he wants you to be. So I encourage you to do it. Michael pointed out last week that marriage isn't going to solve your problems. Well, I wish I'd known that. Actually, more than that, I wish I had known that I had a problem. Okay? I didn't know there was anything wrong with me, because I was all that I knew and I was all that I'd ever done, and I thought I pretty well had it together at 18 years old. But the reality is I was running. Yeah, I was running. I had a full-time job my senior year of high school. So after I graduated on a Friday night, I immediately moved into my fully furnished apartment Saturday morning. Yep, I thought I was something else. That's exactly what I thought. I thought I was being independent and free and responsible. I didn't realize that what it's called is brokenness. And I didn't realize that I was running scared from control and domination, all the while looking for someone else to rescue me. And guess what? My husband, my poor, precious, bless his heart husband, found me. And he didn't catch on to what was going on inside of me. So, when I was 18, we met. But at that time, I was in full-blown rebellion. full-blown rebellion from my raising and from my God. I was engaged at 19 and we were married 9 days after I turned 20. And he had no idea who he had married. And you know why? I didn't know who she was. I didn't know who she was. But guess what? 30 years into my marriage, it shows up, and it's finally revealed to me what was going on. It was a hard truth, but the reality is that I really didn't marry Steve out of love. My heart wasn't fluttering, and he wasn't the only one. It wasn't that kind of love that I thought I would, die if I didn't hear from him that afternoon or if we didn't talk the next morning. Because love gives. But I was looking for someone to meet my own selfish needs. Love doesn't take. So, marrying him out of a need for protection and shelter and provision, it should be birthed out of love, not out of brokenness, not out of desperation, not out of emptiness. Okay? So I'm telling you, while you are single, this is the time to identify those things within you. If you don't see it in yourself, entrust yourself to some others who love you enough that they will look at you and they will tell you the truth. Okay? It's not too late. It's not too late. He really thought that the woman that he had known all this time and had actually married was going to be the same woman that he went through life with, and that she would be the same person that he had dated all this time and fell in love with, all the fun we had together. And for the most part, so did I for the first 4 months of our marriage. But then I got pregnant. We conceived our first. And it was amazing how quickly that was a sobering reality. And I immediately and instinctively returned to my raising. My roots kicked in. And I was suddenly sobered by this passage that I had remembered. It had to do with something, if you lead the little children astray, you're better off with a millstone wrapped around your neck and dumped off into the sea. And I thought, I don't think I want that to be me. And I sure don't want to do this to my baby. I don't want to lead her astray. And I don't want to be the reason that she doesn't have that opportunity to really know the love of Jesus. Even though I didn't really have it figured out at that time. I think it was more fear than it was love at that point in my life. But anyway, I immediately got back into church. And so you can only imagine how my husband's head was spinning, because all this time he had no idea that I was even aware of a God, much less that I'd actually at one point had a relationship with him. So he felt like he was tricked. It's kind of like changing the rules in the middle of the ball game. We never had this discussion. And here I am now changing everything about my life. We were that slow exposure marriage that Michael and Larissa were sharing with us last week. So I just want to encourage you that where you're at right now is prime real estate. This is the prime opportunity for you to take advantage of the fact that there is this incredible structure that the Lord is wanting to build through your life. But it's imperative. It will save so much heartache if you will just go ahead and deal with that right now. Because later on, after marriage, when you can't hide these things anymore, there will be collateral damage. There will be fallout of innocent victims because you were unwilling to manage to the things that you need to manage and to take care of and to clean up and to heal before innocent people are in the wake, The enemy also doesn't want you to take that investment, because as long as he can keep these broken generational dynamics going, do you have any idea what a victory that is for him? So he's got a lot to say to you about why he's trying to convince you it's not worth it. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the money. It's not worth the pain. It's not worth the work. He really doesn't want you to sit down and get face to face with Jesus and to hear from him and to allow yourself to get the healing that Jesus has available for you. Okay? So I know you're not thinking about your future generations right now. That's why I'm here to remind you, because they're in you, and it's really important for them that you do the most responsible and loving thing for your future by taking care of you right now. Okay? All right. Now then, thank you for listening. Thank you for participating. Thank you, singles, for hanging in there. And marrieds, it's your turn now. Michael and Marissa shared last week how differently families can look, so I thought I'd just give you a little insight into what our marriage and our family looked like. For the first 28 years of our marriage, I was the stay-at-home mom. I lived to create an environment so that Steve's home was his castle. My marriage, our family, our children, that was my ministry. That was my full-time focus. And I was fully committed to supporting him, so much so that we moved 11 times in 26 years. We have lived in all 4 time zones, 6 different states. In 1994, he was home 2 weeks, the entire year. 2013, he was in a hotel 155 nights. And I'm being moved around from state to state, brand new environment, no family, no friends around, and with 3 precious baby girls that are trying to get acclimated, So life at home was fun. But we were just really committed to being everything that we could be, to allow him to be all that he needed and to be in his career so that he could provide and take care of us. But then at last, the girls graduated, they moved out. And in the meantime, I was introduced to this inner healing ministry, this thing that I do. So as the tables turn, Steve is now retired, and he is fully committed to sacrificially supporting me and allowing me to do what I love. And it's amazing to me that he loves me that well and that he serves me that deeply. I even call him at night, sometimes when I'm on my way home, and it's been one of the heavier days, maybe some of the things that we've dealt with through the course of the day and the different things that have come up, and I'll just let him know this is kind of one of those days. I'm on my way home, and when I get there, he'll be waiting at the top of the stairs with a glass of wine. The fire pit is lit, the sun is setting over the lake, and so I'm telling you, it's this beautiful, crazy, precious life. I know you're envious and jealous, but so while I'm up here loving on people and sitting with people, he's at home stripping beds. He does all of the laundry. He makes the grocery list. He makes the grocery run. He cooks the dinners. He cleans the dishes. He washes the floors. He scrubs the toilets. He fixes the broken things around the house. He washes my car, and he runs my errands. He's not very good about dusting, but I make a point not to make a point of that. He does golf a lot, so while he's gone, I may grab the duster and the, whatever, and get a few things that I just can't overlook anymore. But the marriage we have right now is one that we have both longed for over 34 years. We didn't know how to attain it, and both of us weren't willing to do the work that needed to be done that would allow this beautiful thing that we're living right now to be fully realized. What happened is we actually learned how to become friends. But it came at an enormous price because, unfortunately, pain is a tremendous motivator. When the pain gets strong enough, eventually, you're either going to have to deal with it or you're going to run from it. And sure enough, in 2014, the enemy had finally convinced my husband that his brokenness was bigger than my ability or my willingness to love, to accept, and to forgive. And he decided to run. And I'll be honest, during the 8 months that he was gone and the 9 months of the reconciliation process afterwards, there were moments when I knew that I didn't have that kind of love in me, and I actually questioned if the Lord had enough to fill me to be able to do that. As tormenting and painful as the separation was, to the degree of terrifying and scary, the thought of a reconciliation process was, because I didn't want to go back to what we had had any more than he did. And the discovery during the reconciliation process was even greater pain that I'd known when he walked out. The whole entire time, there were 2 voices that were constantly going on inside. I had this chatter over here that was really loud, it was really convincing, and it felt very real. And it was full of a bunch of truth about he didn't, he won't, you couldn't, you wouldn't. But there was also some lies in there. It'll never. He won't. He can't. It won't. You won't. But there was this other voice deep within that was powerful. It was full of authority. It wasn't making any promises, and it wasn't giving me any guarantees. And it was scary. But because he and I have history, I know my shepherd's voice. So I listened. He actually wasn't telling me that I had to do anything. What he was doing was actually permissioning me to do whatever it is that I wanted to do. And that's when he got me, because he knows, I know that I don't belong to me. I belong to him. So it doesn't get to be about what I want anymore. It only gets to be about what he wants. So here we are today, 4 years on the other side of hell, living the dream, experiencing a marriage that's better than anything I ever, we didn't even have the grid to imagine how good life could really be and what this marriage could look like, and how two people could be so completely united and on such a team and single-focused, even as different as we are. So I just want to encourage you. It's a beautiful thing. It's worth the work. So hang in there. Which kind of leads me to the next two pictures that I saw, and I got them actually simultaneously. There was picture 2 and picture 3. But over here, picture 2, there was a husband and wife on the stage with the, I don't know, what do they call that? Justice of the peace, or the preacher, you know. Here they are, beautifully decorated. The minute they said their wedding vows and he declared that they were husband and wife, they were handed this beautiful little thing. It was living and it was alive, and it was called marriage. And this marriage that's just been birthed is as fragile and it's as delicate as a newborn baby. And it's your responsibility, your mutual responsibility, to steward it, to care for it, to protect it, to nurture it, to guard it. At this point, you are the life source. If you don't feed it, if you don't protect it, if you don't guard it, this baby is gonna die a slow, painful death. Do you have any idea how painful starvation is? So I just want you to understand, as I was watching this tiny little life that had just been formed, because these vows were spoken and this marriage was instituted, I was immediately taken back. I won't tell you how far back to save my daughter, but when I was having babies back in my day at Baylor Hospital, you got to stay there for 3 days. And so it was a wonderful life. It was exciting and exhilarating because you had the baby and you could cuddle it and love it and feed it and rock it and have all the friends come and enjoy it and celebrate it and bring you flowers. And then when you needed to have dinner or make a phone call or maybe even just take a nap, you just rang the bell, the nurse came in, swooped up the child, took him to the nursery, and you were free to do whatever you needed to do until you wanted your baby back. And then you'd ring the bell and they would bring it back and you could have it as long as you wanted it. And by day 2, I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be so easy, nothing to being a mom. Got this. And then we took her home. Yeah, and bless her heart, she came home, she was hurting, she was colically, she was very unhappy. I actually think I was starving her. I wasn't feeding her enough, and so, but she cried all the time, and she was just absolutely inconsolable. And so it didn't take too long into that I realized, oh my gosh, the 24-hour nurse team is back at the hospital. They're not next door in the, the guest room. And then you realize that you're really on your own to take care of this and to figure this out and to make this happen. It's going to take all the energy you've got. And in that moment, it was just a sudden reality of how beautiful a sacrifice that this beautiful gift is going to require of you. Did you know that babies can cry incessantly? A lot of them act like they don't even need sleep. They projectile vomit, they poop, they smear it on your walls, they smear it on your furniture. Eventually they get mobile, they are a path of destruction wherever they go. And if they're not destroying your priceless things, then they're trying to destroy themselves. Falling down the stairs, trying to electrocute themselves, pull TVs over on top of them. And then they learn how to talk. Okay. Well, and when they start to talk, you have absolutely no idea what they're going to say, when they're going to say it, or where they're going to say it. And because everyone in listening distance knows that they're with you, they automatically assume that whatever came out of that one's mouth, they learned it from you. Okay? Well, if that's not humiliating enough, if you've not lived it, you've watched it. It's the full-blown body slam to the floor, fist flying, feet kicking, guttural scream going on inside in the middle of the mall. And at that moment, you know that the battle is on. This beautiful baby called marriage that was born because you conceived it intentionally. It wasn't an accident. You birthed it, and now it's growing. It's stretching, and it's looking to you. And you both share equal responsibility for helping it through the meltdowns, the explosive body excretions, and the destruction. And that's what brings me to the third picture and the first and the one scripture. The scene is the same beautiful scene. The husband and wife are on the stage and they're getting married, but suddenly the pastor's gone, the wedding decorations are gone, the wedding dress and the tuxedo have been transformed into boxing gloves. It pans out, and now they're standing in the middle of a boxing arena. Okay? This is a match, and there will be a winner. The verse. If you guys would put that up for me. I love this translation. It's the Passion Translation. I really didn't even want to use this initially. Excuse me? Okay. I didn't really want to use this verse, although it was the first thing that the Lord gave me way back when Michael started talking about introducing this series. But when I opened up in the Passion and read it, in light of what he just showed me, it's like, oh my goodness, this really does make a lot of sense. He's pretty smart that way. So I'll share it with you. It's James 4:1. It's up there? Good. Okay, so what is the cause of your conflict and your quarrels with each other? Doesn't the battle begin inside of you as you fight to have your own way and to fulfill your own desires? See, you jealously want what the other has, so you begin to see yourself better than others. You start to scheme with envy, and you actually are even willing to harm others to selfishly obtain what you crave. That's why you quarrel, and that's why you fight. And I can't tell you how strongly I believe that he's begging us to put down the boxing gloves, to stop fighting, and to stop beating your spouse up, trying to change them and to make them become what you want them to be or what you need them to be. And instead, I'm inviting you to climb into his lap and to begin to tell him what you want and what you need. There's another verse, it's Proverbs 3:5-8. And again, the Passion Translation, I love it. It says, trust in the Lord completely and don't rely on your own opinions. With all of your heart, rely on him to guide you, and he will lead you in every decision that you make. If you will become intimate with him, in whatever you do, he will lead you wherever you go. So don't think for a moment that you know it all, for wisdom comes only when you adore him with undivided devotion and avoid everything that's wrong. That's when you're going to find the healing refreshment that your body and spirit long for. Which brings me to another memory. I think he knew that I needed this prayer, and I didn't even know enough to pray it, so he kind of prayed it for me. That was pretty tricky of him. I was leaving the house on a Sunday night, going to church. It's a 20-minute drive. We're in the heat of this battle. I'm living the new life, and my husband is not. And I am concerned, and I am scared, and I'm not very happy. And so I've just decided I'm going to pray for my husband all the way to church tonight. So I think I got 5 minutes away from the house, And the next thing I know, I'm in the parking lot of the church building, and I don't know if it was a vision or I don't know, but I kind of came out of this thing. I was listening to myself, watching myself, and I realized what I was doing as I was praying. Oh my gosh, Lord, if you will just make me the woman that you would have me to be, if I could only be the vessel that you need me to be in order for me to be able to allow you to accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish in this mess that I'm in and this pain that we're living right now. And he took me up on it. It wasn't very comfortable. It was actually a pretty painful process because what he was trying to do, needed to do, had to do, and was willing to do because I invited him to, even though I didn't really, I don't think, do it on my own initiative, was to teach me how to die to myself. Because he really wanted to live through me. But he couldn't show up until I got out of the way. There were a couple of little points that I wanted to throw in here just because they came to mind and I'll share them with you. That began a long, lonely process. There were plenty of times when I was very much aware of the fact that I felt really alone, as a wife and as a mother, and, my husband wasn't husbanding me well. And then the Lord broke my pity party when I came to Isaiah 54, verse 4 and 5. And that says, don't be afraid, Charla, you're not going to be put to shame. Don't fear disgrace. You're not going to be humiliated. And you really will forget the shame of your youth. And you will remember no more the reproach of your widowhood. I wasn't there yet, but I had a lot of shame from my past. Because your maker is your husband. The Lord Almighty is his name, and the Holy One of Israel is your Redeemer. He is called the God of all the earth. And I thought, well, maybe this isn't such a bad deal after all. I've got a feeling he could be a pretty good husband. And so I allowed him to be. And so I want to encourage you, if you're struggling in your marriage, if your spouse isn't what you need him to be or wanted to be right now, if you're lacking something in that relationship, I want to encourage you to please take your eyes just for the moment off of your spouse and put it on the husband. And even if you're a husband and you need to take your eyes off your wife, he's still sufficient, so put your eyes on up there. Get a look of him, okay? He really will fulfill and satisfy whatever the gaping holes are. Because he does have plans, he does have purposes, there are things he's wanting to accomplish. And if you will allow him, he's delighted to do it. There's another thing kind of came up, and I keep hearing quite often as far as marriage relationships are concerned, when there's a decision that has to be made, and you have two people that feel very strongly in the opposite directions. Complete polar opposite beliefs about what needs to be done as a decision has to be made, and what are we going to do about it? Well, when you can't get your spouse to agree with you, then just go over their head, climb up in his lap, and start to pray. Ask him. Because he has a win for the team. Only he can find this crazy, amazing way to work it out in such a way that the team wins. It's not a win-win. There's no actually such thing as a win-win or a lose-lose in a marriage relationship because you are one. The team either wins or the team loses. And only he can come up with a strategic and outrageous and crazy creative and beautiful way of letting it be a win for the team. I actually had this little example, probably the strongest one that I can think of. It was way back. When we moved, our oldest one, we moved her from Texas to Boston. So she gets to Boston speaking like a Texan. We're only there a couple of years. Then we move her to California. So now she moves to California talking like a Bostonian. And she was so messed up, she didn't know who she was. And I could tell that we were in trouble, And again, my husband was gone quite often, so he really wasn't aware of all the dynamics that I was dealing with on a daily basis. And someone presented this crazy idea about homeschooling. And this is so back before homeschooling was hardly known. It sure wasn't cool. It was actually illegal in a lot of states. And so I spent the summer reading on homeschooling and becoming more and more convinced that, oh my gosh, I actually think this is what I'm supposed to do. It's terrifying. I'm scared. I don't even know, how this would work, but I think I'm supposed to do it. So it's like, all right, well, all I've got to do is get it past my husband. And so much to my surprise, when I said, hey, Steve, what do you think about this great idea? He said, not over my dead body. Will you take my daughter out of a public school system, put her in the Davidian compound, isolate her from the world, and teach her all of this Jesus stuff that you're about all the time? And I thought, oh, well, this is interesting. Okay. Either I didn't hear from you, or he hasn't yet heard from you. So I go back into my daddy's lap, and I just begin to pray and tell him, you know what? I actually think this was your idea. And if it was, I'm willing to do it, but I know that I can't do it apart from a yes from him. And so if you want me to do it, you are the one that directs the hearts of the king like a watercourse. How much more so the hearts of men? I'm just going to sit and waiting while you direct that heart. And lo and behold, I can't even tell you how it happened, but it was a smooth and easy thing. The next thing I know, I'd gotten permission to homeschool my daughter. It was the most positive year of our family life that we had had in a couple of years. It was so good that he actually asked me if I would homeschool her a second year, because we were facing another move and a transition. We were on our way to Denver at that point from California. So I just want to let you know that if the two of you have a decision to make and you're not unified on it, then it's not the time to make the decision. The end. Okay? And so what will happen if you absolutely positively have to make a decision, and if you both will position your hearts that to go to him and to find out what his will is, what he wants from you, he will absolutely positively either unify the both of you, or he will give one of you the grace to surrender your power and your rights and to come alongside in a supportive role to follow the lead of the one that doesn't yet have the grace. Okay? And that in of itself could be the Lord's answer for you. So I just really want to kind of let you put that in your pocket and let it settle for a while. Another thing that I've heard, especially I think from women who are really concerned that the man in their family isn't the spiritual leader that they need to be or that they should be, and they're concerned about their children. And believe me, I had plenty of years on my own where as my girls were each going through their own stages of rebellion and, finding out who they were themselves. And I felt very, very alone and on my face a lot, terrified about some of the decisions they were making and some of the places they were in at that moment in their life. And I felt really alone and overwhelmed, and I actually had felt like the enemy had won. But again, I'm in the middle of one of my little pity parties, my wah-wah moments. And then the Beth Moore study that I was working on had something to do with, I don't know what it was about. But anyway, during that study, I realized it was pointed out to me in that study. It comes from 2 Timothy. Okay, Timothy is, the New Testament, 1st and 2nd Timothy. Paul's writing a letter to him and commissioning him and telling him, run, young man, do this church thing. Did you know that Timothy his father was a Greek and his mother was a Jew? So his grandmother apparently converted to Christianity and converted his mother to Christianity. And because of their influence, look at how he turned out. Look what happened to Timothy. Do any of y'all know this Bible, the source? It's a literal translation. It's unbelievable. I love it. So I encourage you to get that. While I'm reading this, if you guys would put the other one up from the Passion that I gave you. In 2 Timothy 1, verse 5, Paul says to Timothy, he said, I actually recollect the non-overly critical faith that is in you, which first inhabited your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice. And I am convinced it is in you too. And the Passion says, I am filled with joy as I think of your strong faith that was passed down to you through your family line. It began with your grandmother Lois, who passed it on to your dear mother Eunice. And it's clear that you too are following in the footsteps of their godly examples. So I just want to encourage you women, if you're freaking out because your husband's not playing the spiritual role that you really feel like he needs to be playing in your life or in the lives of your children, I want to encourage you that you have unlimited spiritual power and authority. Your words are powerful, they are effective. Send those prayers up. I want to encourage you to become the warrior bride that you were created to be. And there is one thing that you don't need your husband's permission for. I don't care what you're coming out of, and it is to operate in the spiritual authority that you have been born into. And so I just want to encourage you to step up, to operate in that. It's a beautiful place of, it's a beautiful place. Really, you know what it is? It's a beautiful place of complete desperation is what it is. But it's that mother's love, that's just coming forth. And so I just want to encourage you as women, that those babies can be just fine because he is the ultimate father. Okay? And so, and when he's your husband and he's their father, you can just go spend some time with him and rest and know that you may not see it right now, but those prayers are being heard, okay? So I just want to bless you in that. Okay, moving back onto the marriage relationship, I want to encourage you to take responsibility for you. You're the only one that you can do anything about, and that's not even an easy thing to do. So I want you to acknowledge tonight some character defects, and then I want you to ask God to deliver you from them, okay? I'm probably going to get a lot of hate mail for this. But go ahead and get your pens and pencils, get out your cell phones, or just take note of this. I want you to understand what a resentment is. Do you know that a resentment is like the number one killer of relationships? Mm-hmm. You know what resentment is? It's selfishness. That's all it is. It's just selfishness. Resentment is that feeling that shows up inside of you when all of a sudden, what's happening? Well, you're not getting your way. Mm-hmm. Yep, he didn't do it my way. He doesn't think the way I want him to think. He's not talking the way I want him to talk. That's selfishness. And you know why it's selfish? Do you know what selfishness is? It's looking to others for what they can give you. When you think that selfishness is because he's not helping with the babies, or he's not washing the car, or he didn't do his chores tonight, the reality is the selfishness is showing up inside of you because you're wanting something from him. It was actually selfish for me to marry Steve with the motives that I had, that I actually didn't know I had, you know? But at the very core of what it is, it was selfishness. Because I came with an expectation. I was looking for someone to rescue me, to protect me, to provide for me. And I came with a lot of expectation. And you know what happens when you have an expectation? Well, let me give you a definition for an expectation. An expectation is a predetermined resentment. Okay? So, when you come in with an expectation, you're already coming in determined and set up for disappointment, for hurt. We seem for some reason to be really justified in having expectations of our family and our loved ones, and to the degree that you have an expectation is to the degree that you're going to be disappointed and you're going to be hurt. Okay? The last character defect I want to talk about is fear. Because fear is the basis of all character defects. Maybe one of these days we'll actually have a Monday night class in the equipping thing about these character defects. But fear is the basis for them all. Because you have a fear of losing something, the fear of not being viewed as you should be viewed, fear of being empty-handed, alone, disgraced, or discarded at the end of the day. Did you know that fear is the thing that's driving you when you're spiritually sick? When you're operating from fear, your spiritual sickness is being exposed, because fear is the opposite of love and what is God. Okay, so understanding what they are, now you can ask him to deliver you and from these defects, because he's sitting on the edge of his seat just waiting for you to do that. He can't wait to go to work. The last thing I want to tap into is, it's a little harder. I think what I want to start with is to let you know that a lot of times, the numbers are really, they're pretty staggering. Did you know that 1 in 3, and it's usually the woman that's the victim, not always, but it seems to be how the numbers work out, that 1 in 3 women and relationships are involved. It's a domestic abuse situation. 1 in 3 is domestic abuse. The church doesn't rate much better. In the church alone, 1 in 4 are involved in an abusive relationship. And so I think what I want to say to those of you that might be in that place is that when you're in a relationship with someone who has the inability or the unwillingness to do safe and healthy relationship, it's no longer a marriage problem. You can go to all the marriage counseling you want to, but it's not going to fix the problem because you don't have a marriage problem. What you have is a dynamic in place that more times than not was passed on to you. You're typically only involved with someone to the degree of emotional health that you're operating in at any given moment. So what I see a lot is people that are involved in these emotionally abusive, domestic abuse, and I'll kind of go into different categories of it, don't even realize that it's abuse because it's all they've ever known. It's the same dynamic they were raised in. It's the same dynamic they saw in their grandparents, that they saw in their grandparents' parents and grandparents' grandparents. It's just passed on. It's so familiar, you don't know anything else. So you don't even recognize the system or the cycle that you're in. Abuse comes in several forms, but they're all abuse. Okay, I think we're all pretty much familiar with the physical abuse, and there's very little tolerance for that anymore in relationships. But physical abuse is simply trying to control by physical violence, by physically overpowering the other one to gain control. It's hitting, slapping, punching, knocking around, pushing them into walls, It's physical abuse, and it's not okay. There's another abuse called emotional abuse. And that's where people are trying to control you by your emotions because you know how vulnerable your emotions are, okay? So commonly the abuser actually doesn't even realize he's being abusive. Rather, they probably are more aware of the feeling insecure. So what do? In an emotionally abusive situation, they feel compelled and justified to accuse you of cheating on them. He blames her for his unhappiness. He checks up on her. Texts, emails, phone logs, where she went, because he knows how many miles it is from the house to the grocery store, to the dry cleaners, and to the neighborhood school. He knows how many miles were on the car when she left. He knows how many miles are on it when she returns home. It's control. Criticizing her harshly when she doesn't do it his way. When she doesn't load the dishwasher the right way, when she doesn't organize the pantry the right way, load the car the right way, when she's not teaching the children the right way. When he threatens her because she's seeming to go beyond the lines. Verbally attacking her when she argues with him because her arguing is a convincing evidence to him that he's not in control of her anymore. He may start to really criticize the way that she talks, the way that she walks, the way that she dresses, her interactions with others, her style of living and coping in order to gain and to keep control over her. Not allowing her to get an education or hold down a job because he's persuasively convincing her that this season in her life she should be at home raising the children. So there's only one car, there's only one income, she doesn't have access to any of the banking accounts. Do you see how controlling that is? And so, name calling is like a verbal abuse, but it can also be emotional. When you're calling them stupid and inept and dumb and an idiot, and those are the kind of things I've heard a lot worse, literally in counseling sessions when I'm working with people. But it's verbal abuse, and it's emotionally destructive. Minimizing her opinions, treating her with disdain or even disgust, withholding affection or conversation. And this is, the reason I want to share this, this actually is for you singles too. You're going to see these dynamics in your dating relationships, and I want you to recognize it. I want you to hear what it is and to recognize it. Because it's so easy to excuse in that dating thing if you're not healthy and if you haven't taken care of that outdated structure on that prime piece of property. You could literally find yourself locked into a relationship. But so many of the women that I work with, and even the men that I work with, they don't even recognize that they're in this dynamic because it's so familiar to them. The abusers take little or no responsibility for their own choices and their own behavior. They usually have a double standard when it comes to their own behavior, and they make themselves look like the victim while making the other one look bad. It's an emotional twist. There's spiritual abuse, where, they use the Bible and the scriptures to beat it over the head that the woman's not being submissive enough or loving enough or patient enough or gentle enough or kind enough. If she would just be more supportive, he wouldn't have to treat her this way. Okay, that's just spiritual abuse. There is a form of sexual abuse even in the marriage relationship. I'm going to save that. Maybe Michael will talk about that next week because he is going to talk about sex and sexuality. So, but what I just want you to know is that if you are in this category at all, I just want you to know that we want to be a safe place to hear from you. We want to be a shelter for you. We want to be a support for you. We want to be a resource for you, whether you are the perpetrator or whether you are the victim. There is help, there is hope, there is healing, and Jesus loves you. You are only perpetuating what you were raised with, what you knew, what was passed on to you. And so I just encourage you to please let us know about you. We do have resources. We want to be a safe place. I promise you, if you come and share these things with us, we're not going to tell you that you have to go back home and submit to that, or to be kinder, or more gentle, or more loving. If you come to us and let us know that this is kind of going on, in our home, we have resources. We want to help you get the help that you need, because help is available. And for you to be able to grow into a healthy dynamic and a healthy relationship and to break those generational cycles that were passed on to you is a possibility. It's a reality, and Jesus is sitting on the edge of his seat waiting for the opportunity to be able to bring that to you and for you. So I just want to encourage you, let us know, marriage@uroom.org. In all of the topics that we've talked about tonight, no matter where you're at in the single stage, the married stage, or even this last category, to the degree that you individually heal is to the degree that your marriage is going to reflect growth. A lot of energy doesn't have to be spent on marriage, repair. It's not about managing the marriage so much as it is about just taking responsibility for yourself, acknowledging when things are showing up, and just knowing there are resources and things available for you. So I just want to encourage you to check in. Let us know that you're out there. Let us know that you need help. We are prepared to walk with you and to help you. We have a tremendous amount of resources to share with you, and people that are very skilled and trained and effective, have a real proven track record of being able to help, to bring success in all of these areas. I do want to share with you this resource. We have a lot of them out there because we don't have time up here on the pulpit to kind of walk you through all the practicals about how to do relationship, in an amazing way. This is not just for marrieds. This is singles. If you could learn about this, it would be amazing. And so I don't know how many we have out there, but we can always get more. But it's called The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. This is one of those relational scientists that I told you about. He's actually got scientific data documenting relationships, just watching couples and their dynamics. And so it's a lot of fun. Last week, y'all were challenged to have a date night. So whoever you are, whether you're single or whether you're in a marriage relationship, get this book. If you're married, get one each. Spend a week reading a chapter, and then on your date night, come together and go through the little exercises. It's fun. It's lighthearted. It's not this deep, heavy, work. It's very practical, and it's very enlightening. You're going to learn a lot of things in here. There's another couple of books that I want to share with you in preparation for next week, because Michael's going to talk next week on sex and sexuality. And so I just want to let you know that the other thing that is as predominant as domestic abuse is sexual abuse. The numbers are huge, not only for the women, but for the men, the little girls and the little boys. And so quite often what's going to happen is, if you've ever had any exposure to that, or if that's been in your history, it's going to show up in your inability as a husband or a wife to enjoy a physical relationship with your spouse. So if you have trouble with any interest, any willingness, any pleasure, then it's very possible that some of these things are coming from your childhood, some trauma that you've had in that place. And so this one book by Melody Beattie, no, not Melody Beattie, let's go to the other one first. When the Woman You Love Was Abused. Did you get both of them? There's 2. Okay, this is When the Man You Love Was Abused, okay, by Cecil Murphy. And then there's another one, When the Woman You Love Was Abused. I'm not sure if they got that one. That's by Dawn Scott Jones, I think. But those, especially when the woman you love was abused. That's actually written by a woman who was sexually abused, who couldn't understand why the relationship with her husband was just so off. There were things that didn't make sense to her until she found out what was going on and really worked through the process and got healing in that place. And then she realized that she couldn't have shared that with her husband because she hadn't even figured it out herself. And so it's just a really good book to help you get clarity and understanding if you have been a victim of that, how that's going to show up in your marriage relationship. And so, she wrote it actually to men to help the husbands recognize some of the dynamics and to help them understand what's going on with her when she didn't have the language to share it with them. And I think the other one is when the man you love was abused. It's a wife's guide to kind of help the husband through that in his healing process. So I know this has been a really heavy topic and a lot of heavy stuff, but I just want to let you know that we only are introducing it because we want to let you know that there is so much hope. For everything that we've introduced and everything we've laid out here is to the degree that there is hope and there is help available. And so we are just making you aware of it and encouraging you to please embrace the healing. Do what you need to do. Make the physical investment of time, make the financial investment, because you are one of the greatest investments that there are out there, right? Yeah, I think you're worth it. I think the ones coming after you are worth it. I think the ones that you're with are worth it. So I just encourage you to go for it. Check us out. Okay, if there's anybody that received anything tonight in any way, shape, or form, then I want you to stand, and I'm going to pray for you. We're just going to just bless you and let the Lord just continue to really grow and strengthen the thing that was deposited in you tonight. Oh, okay. All right. So, Lord, oh my goodness, I just thank you for every gold nugget, Lord, that you have deposited in every heart. I thank you for everything that's been exposed. I thank you, Father, for the work that you're wanting to do. I thank you for just the plans and the purposes. I thank you for your gentleness and your kindness and your tenderness, and I just thank you for the invitation. I thank you, Father, for waking us up and opening our eyes and helping us to recognize the schemes and the plans of the enemy really is out to kill, to steal, to destroy. But you have come that we will have life and that we can have it abundantly. And so I thank you that there is no scheme or plan of the enemy that can hinder us from being able to walk in the fullness of the freedom and the health and the wholeness that you have made and paid with a powerful price for us to have that available to us. And so, Lord, I just pray for every marriage in the house, and I just ask that you would really just drill a little hole and drop a little seed. Lord, all these truths that have been revealed tonight would begin to take really deep root in this fertile soil, and that there would be such a strong root bed, Lord, that there would, at the very core of who they are, they would become that oak of righteousness that's planted by streams of water, whose leaf does not wither, who bears fruit in all season. And so, Father, I just ask a blessing over everyone here, whether they're single and have yet to reap and to experience the fullness of this precious journey of marriage with you, Lord, and for those that are married, that are struggling, that are on life support, Lord, that are in need of your touch. I just thank you that there is not a marriage that you can't correct, that you can't heal, that you can't restore, that you can't bring back. And so I just ask for you to begin to do that supernatural work in each of them, Lord, and to bring wholeness and to bring healing. And so I just thank you that, your arm is not too short to save. And I thank you that you are the great physician, and you are just waiting for the opportunity for us to come in, to sit with you and allow you to go to work. So we love you. We bless you. We just ask, Lord, that you just put a blessing over everyone that's represented here tonight. Their households, their families, their generations to come, Lord, will be blessed, that things will be shifted today, Lord, through this process, through the things that they've been exposed to, the things they've heard, and the work that you're wanting to do. Because you can't unhear, you can't unsee, and you can't unknow something. So, Lord, now they know. So I just ask that you just grow it, stretch it, and make it big. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. All right. Okay.
Thanks, Charla. Awesome. You can email marriage@uroom.org if you want to take some steps into pursuing that healing. But you guys have a great night. Bless you. Be safe. We'll see you at prayer this week. And please pick up your trash, water bottles, coffee cups, tissues if you cried. It helps us out a lot. Bless you guys.